Welcome to the Nate Gratian Show, where we talk all things personal finance, investing, and entrepreneurship. Thanks for joining me here today. My name is Nate, and I'm your host for today's episode. It's wonderful to have you back for another episode, and today we're going to be discussing the topic of time. Not just the impact that time has on your finance and on investments, but the concept of time and what happens and some hurdles that we face what happens in our mind when we start talking about time and we think about time. So we're going to be talking a bit about the concept of time, and then yes, we will talk about the impact that time has on your investments and that area of things. If you have a topic or a question that you would like answered or discussed on a podcast episode, send me a message on Instagram at Nate Gratian. That's NateGration, at Nate Gratian, or on my website, ngration.com. You can fill out the little form there, and I will notify you when the podcast episode goes live that dealing with the question that you may have or the topic that you'd like discussed. But today we're going to talk about time. Time is a interesting thing, and it's a battle that many of us face when we think about time and the concept of time. Many of us can wrap our head around an hour or 8 hours, because the 8-hour work day, we celebrate Labor Day as a public holiday that remembers when that was brought about, the 8-hour work day, 8 hours work, 8 hours play, 8 hours of sleep. So the 24 hours broken up in that way. And we can wrap our mind around a day or a week, a month, and even a year. We can wrap our mind around a year, and people set New Year's resolutions and goals at the beginning of each year, and that's all good. That's really good, and I set goals at the beginning of each year for different areas of my life that I want to improve and work on that year, and that I want to strengthen, and areas that I want to continue developing. And so that's all good, and we can wrap our mind around that kind of time frame. The issue is when it comes to investing, really a year is great, but you need to think in 5-year terms, and you need to think about what's 5 years down the road, not 1 year down the road. And 5 years is where we really begin to struggle, and where I see a lot of people struggle. And when you're, I pastor a church, and as a pastor, I think in oftentimes 5-year blocks. It's important. Yes, we focus on the now, and as I talked about in a few episodes ago about focusing on the now, and it's important to focus on the now, and also then where you're focusing in the future. If you haven't listened to that episode, check it out. It's a good episode. But But when it comes to investing, and if you're running a business, owning a business, and as a pastor, 5-year blocks is important to think about. And this is the reason, and this is the reason why. It's because in 1 year, many times we overestimate what we can do in 1 year. We overestimate. So people, as a personal trainer, you talk to people, and sometimes people say, I want to run a marathon. When's a marathon? In 8 weeks. You've overestimated what you can achieve in that 8 weeks. You need longer time. And so many times we overestimate, and we try to, and then when it doesn't happen, we end up discouraged. But the thing is, and we do this with investing, we overestimate what we want to try and achieve in 1 year investing. This year, out of every paycheck, I'm going to put aside X amount. And then it's after 1 year, it's like, well, that's not what I was hoping it would be. Well, it's 1 year. It's 1 year. But when it comes to 5 years, we underestimate what we can achieve. And we lowball what we can achieve. And so that's why it's so important, and with your investing journey, that it's important that you look at what you can achieve over 5 years. not what you can achieve over 1 year, 2 year, 3 years is decent, but over 5 years is good. The other thing, specifically when it comes to investing, is if you give yourself a 5-year period, 96% of the time, 97% of the time, statistics show us, apologies for the dogs, everyone, show us that no matter what day you started investing, even if the market was really high, no matter what day you started investing, 5 years down the road, you've made money 97% of the time the market is higher. And so that's why it's important to have a 5-year time horizon. And we underestimate many times what we can achieve in that 5 years. So I encourage you, when it comes to your investing, have 5 years. Now, this is some of the difficulties that we face is, firstly, we look at ourselves, we try to picture ourselves 5 years down the road, and there's a disconnect. We struggle to see ourselves 5 years down the road. We struggle to see ourselves in our mid-30s, or in our, if we're in our late 30s into our 40s, or if we're in our late 40s into our 50s. There's a disconnect, and that's because of the time horizon. That's because we struggle to see that far into the future, into that kind of horizon. And so there's a disconnect with the person that we are 5 years from now. But can I tell you something, that your physical attributes and your different things, they may change, but you will still be that same person that, if you're wanting to invest, you'll still be that same person that wants to invest. I'm hoping that if you're listening to this episode, I'm hoping to maybe encourage you to start investing now and be that person that 5 years down the road, you're still investing because it's what you do, and you're 5 years further down the road. And so that's the biggest difficulty that we face, is we tend to underestimate what we can achieve in 5 years, and we underestimate it, and there's a disconnect. We struggle to connect with the person that we will be 5 years down the road. And I'll tell you something, it's very similar. You'll have 5 more years of experience. You'll have, I've been pastoring now just over 7 years, and I'm not the same pastor I was 5 years earlier, which is a good thing. There's more experience, there's more understanding in certain areas and things like that. And 5 years down the road from now, I will have changed, but there will be the core of who I am will be very much similar. I'll still be Nate Gratian, and if podcasting's the thing that's happening, I'll still be podcasting and YouTubing and doing all that stuff as well. And so it's there's still that element that's still you, and you've got to realize that you're not going to have, you're still you 5 years down the road. So I encourage you, try to connect with who you will be 5 years from now, and let your time horizon be 5 years, and make your goal for investing to invest out of every paycheck a certain amount for 5 years, not for 1 year, not for 2, not for 3, not for 4, but for 5 years. And then look at things, and you'll be amazed what you can achieve in 5 years. Now let's look at the power really quickly before we finish this episode off. Let's look at the power really quickly of time on your investments. And we're going to take a big zoom out, okay? Over 30 years. So, $100 a week invested over 30 years. Many of you listening have probably done this kind of math before, but $100 a week invested over 30 years, compounded annually with an 11% average return per annum, will leave you with just over $1 million. Now, if you take that and you continue that for an additional 10 years, and you make it 40 years, so $100 over 40 years, it doesn't add on just a little bit. It adds on a whole lot more that additional 10 years, $100 a week at 11% average return per year will take you to just over $3 million. Over 40 years, just that extra 10 years. That's the power and impact that time has on your investments. Thanks for listening to this episode today. Did you guys know we have a YouTube channel as well? The Nate Gratian Show on YouTube. You can find the podcast episodes there, as well as playlists with shorts. I do shorts throughout the week, keeping you guys updated with what's happening on the market, what we're doing in our portfolio, and some investment tips and advice and stuff. Just short videos going up on YouTube. Just search The Nate Gratian Show. If you haven't left a review or feedback for this podcast wherever you listen, I'd really love it if you can do that. It really helps, and I appreciate it. We'll see you in the next episode, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.